It's the second line day. We are in gate 33 and the second line is called surrender. From what we know about second lines, we can see that surrender is not going to be that uncomfortable for them. Their natural state is to be surrendered to their hermit nature. So it's not a problem to be surrendered to being in their privacy, their retreat, to being in their reflection. When you get to the second line, there is always a projected field. You get someone who projects outwards that they are private and that they're always reflecting. These are the ones who remember. And because of the sort of paper tiger quality of the second line, they may or may not actually remember anything. They may or may not enjoy their privacy. All of these things are possibilities in the process of the second line. In the exaltation, we have the recognition that surrender to superior forces can be an opportunity to expand one's own strengths and eventually triumph, embracing powerful forces in order to lay the foundation for future success. These powerful forces that are mentioned here, these are the forces that try to bring you out of retreat. These are the forces that you have to deal with when you come out of retreat. And if you're not equipped, if you haven't reflected, then you are not going to be prepared when they call you out. You're a second line. They're going to call you out because they know that you can remember what happened. Remember, this is that abstract. And abstract is about the past. It's making sense of the past and then sharing it. Abstract beings are trapped by the experiential wheel. There is a constant pressure on them to enter into another experience, something that can be an opportunity to expand their own strength and to eventually triumph. But it is so much better to wait, to avoid the temptation of jumping into something else and to build one's reflective capacity. And that may lead to success in the future. In the projected field of this second line, there are those who are going to be saying, leave me alone. But they don't necessarily know why they're saying that. They know they need to be left alone at the end of an experience, but it's not a given that they will actually use that aloneness to get into a deep reflective process. They may, but they may not. They can have a recognition genetically that it is better for them to be apart, to have their aloneness and to have that opportunity to be separate, that it's better to do that than it is to jump straight into another experience, but they might not do anything with that recognition. These second lines can be very withdrawn without that necessarily being an advantage. There can be those who complain actually about having to be alone, who don't enjoy their alone time. In the detriment, we have, unlike the reasons in calculated surrender above, the deeper and personal surrender. The feeling that one's original position was a delusion and the impressionability that makes that makes might right. A public embrace of powerful forces and a private resentment of their power. Okay. Lower trigram. This is lower trigram. These are people who want very much to be left alone, but at the same time, they are under the strain of having a collective voice. First line, they need to go deep. Well, they go deeply into their reflection, and they are often ill-equipped when they're pulled out. And it's the same thing, really, for the second line as well. This phrase, which I'll try and say properly this time, makes might right. This is about them having to go into their privacy to reflect. They have to, they have to accept that they can't get their way. They can't just talk. They have to be equipped. And they can only be equipped after they've reflected and they're clear. This is a projected gate. There can be a deep resentment here, bitterness, when one can't complete one's process. And the moment that powerful forces are there pulling on you to remember, if you're not clear and correct in yourself, then you can lose the whole experience. Imagine what that's like for somebody who has been through this experience and they finish the experience, but before they really have a chance to reflect on it and to see what the value of it really was, they get pulled on by other forces and they get pulled out to remember, to share their witnessing. But they haven't been through the complete process. So what they have to say doesn't carry the clarity of their experience. They lose all that impact that they might have had. The 19, line 2, is called service. This is about dedication and service to higher values. Is there something about the 19-2 that can make it easier for the 33-2 to withdraw, to surrender to the call, to reflect and ponder? It seems to me that the 19 is in service to the 33, no matter which line you look at. It's supporting the 33 to play its part, to retreat and to make sense of the experience so that it can be of value to the totality. Do you have a different interpretation of this line, this gate? Please comment, share it with me if you do. Venus is shifting the focus of beauty and love and personal values into the abstract collective sacral gate 29 this afternoon at 15:55. This is the abysmal, the gate of perseverance, the gate of saying yes. And it's so important to use strategy and authority before saying yes to something that is going to take your precious energy and use it to complete something. Gate 29, abstract circuitry, all about cycles, the beginnings, the endings, entering into things correctly, having the energy to complete them, whether that means actually finishing yourself or handing it over to someone else. Either is a completion of a process. Saying yes to something that you don't have the energy to take to its natural conclusion, natural for you, your conclusion, as I say, whether that's handing it off to someone else or actually finishing it yourself. If you're saying yes to something that hasn't got that potential, it could be really unhealthy for you. Can you see the value in this? Can you feel the love for the body that comes from operating this way? Can you feel the power that comes from operating this way? 29 is a very powerful gate. This gate of saying yes, and it's looking to gate 46, the love of the body. How does this feel to you? The moon is still in the tribal throat gate 45 for a little bit longer. This is the gate of the gatherer, the gate of the ruler, wanting the best for its tribe, but not wanting to do all the work for the tribe. Although, very big on education so that the tribe can gather its own stuff together, do its own thing. The moon then moves into the individual throat gate 12 at 14:54. This is the gate of standstill, of caution, where there is the potential for an ability to be very articulate in expressing unique perceptions when it's in the mood. This gate and the channel it is in, all about being in the right mood for whatever is at hand. And it's very tuned into words. It's a throat gate after all, but it's also the gate that was responsible for us being able to communicate in many ways. Many thousands of years ago, when we had the mutation where the larynx dropped, this was in the 12th gate that was responsible for that mutation. So language is really important. And the frequency behind our language, also really important. This gate and this channel can really pick up on those kinds of things. And although it's a throat gate, it's also a gate of silence. It benefits from silence and from contemplation to let one's message mature, which is rather a beautiful moon transit to have whilst we are in gate 33. And we have a channel here as well, of course, because Saturn is in the channel of openness in, no, Saturn is, it's not. Saturn is in gate 22, which gives us the channel of openness. I'll get there eventually. This is the design of a social being. So again, the focus is on the right timing. It's always in individuality, but this is throat to solar plexus, timing, wait to run the wave, wait to see what comes out the other side. but it's about honoring the mood and seeing where that takes you and how the wave is going to move you through. It's a channel that brings that emotional definition. So the advice is always to wait before acting, before speaking. It's a manifestor channel. So who are you going to impact with whatever comes out of this? Because that's really what this wave gives you the opportunity to investigate. You know, who am I going to impact with my emotional outburst, or with my language skills, or with whatever it is? This is the time that you take to work through that. Final moon gate today is the logical G center gate 15 at 1:07 tomorrow morning. This is the gate of modesty, the gate of extremes, and the love of humanity, or not. This is a quality of behavior that expresses the proper balance between extremes. It's highly magnetic. We've talked about that before. Although at 1:07 in the morning, I'm not sure what good that's going to do any of us. Although, of course, you might be in a completely different time zone when you listen to this. Enjoy your magnetism if you get this a bit later on and you're not sound asleep. This is a gate that doesn't stay fixed. It's fluid in its movement through a spectrum of rhythms, and it may appear very extreme to others, but that is perfect for your own process in finding the balance between all of those extremes. So that's us for today. Thank you, as always, for tuning in, for listening, for watching, and for going on this journey. And I hope there has been of value. And until I see you tomorrow for a third line day, go gently.